Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad House of Delmer, together with my co-host Mark Ronich of Statewide News Service and jbiztechphilly.com. We have a very, very special guest with us, Ms. Susan Ken, president of PEF, that's a union. And Susan, welcome to the Jewish View.
Thank you so much.
So it's so nice to have you here, and I think you're the first head of a public employee union to be our guest here.
Well, thank you for
studio.
having me.
So this is wonderful. Now I'm going to have all the other union presidents.
Very good. I think they should all come. I'll tell them.
Listen, Mark, before we start, I know Mark always asks for your bio, how you got into the union. But first, I want to give a little bit of my background. My mother's grandmother, was one of the first, going back old, even though I'm 29 years old, you're going back to around 1910, whatever, in the 1910s. She was one of the first lady workers union.
Oh.
And she had a friend that died in the Triangle Fires.
Oh, my
I don't know
God.
if our viewers are familiar with it. It was just like really, maybe you say that it was the start of the revolution of unions, saying this is incredible. These people are unsafe. They're getting paid the minimum wages, practically no wage, and that really. And my grandmother was one of the first people to that. So at least I tell you how I'm.
So you know all about why unions are.
Here.
So is this the Garment Workers Union?
Yeah.
ILGWU?
Yeah, that was it.
Okay.
You're on the ball.
I'm on Triangle Fire. That's who's working there.
Famous.
The International Ladies
It's
Garment
sad
Workers
and it's
Union.
famous, but
Yeah.
it's inspiring
But
all at the same time.
And the same year, 1911, that they had the Triangle Fire, the state capitol had its fire.
Really?
Yeah,
I
so
didn't
that
put
was
two and
the-
two together. I didn't.
There was a lot of fires
That was
going
a
on.
bad
It
year.
was a burning year.
Well, maybe that's where
So-
the question: how did you get into the union? Like being a president of union, how you're like it surely is an avocational position. Tell us your background.
Well, really, I came to state work right from high school, but my family was always embedded in the union movement. So I came to state work. I was a young woman, but I always knew what was right and what was wrong.
What agency?
Education, always.
State ed or-
37 years, state ed. 37 years. I just celebrated my 37th year in
Mazel tov.
March. Thank you. So I always knew there was a difference between what was right and what was wrong, how people should be treated, no matter what their station in life was. So I started as a secretary, and I always felt less than, especially there, because everyone had advanced degrees, and it was really about what you achieved, and it wasn't really about who you were. So I knew it was wrong. And I advanced, and I raised my children, and I had my family, and I took care of my family, and I got my advanced degrees, all working there. And so it gave me a really good perspective about how people look at other people and how they judge other people. And that really instilled, it helped instill, again, reinforce the values that were already instilled in me about why you're put here, and what your purpose is, and your purpose is to leave the earth better than you found it. And so that's really how I got involved in the union movement, when I saw people being disrespected, not valued, no input, and so that's really what it was about for me.
Let me give an example. I like seeing the state. I could see, like I was saying, the manufacturing, wipe the floors, clean my shoe, whatever. How would in a state worker, for example, give an instance?
I'll give you an example, and
Good.
some people might think this was silly, but it wasn't silly when you were living it. So there were a group of secretaries, and there were a group of professionals, and we would have a meeting. And always, the professionals would go into the room, and their seats would already be there, and the secretaries would have to wheel their chairs in. Something about that just didn't feel right to me. It was like, okay, we'll make room for you if you can find your way. So I organized them, and I said, the next meeting, we're going to go in and we're going to sit in the chairs, and then we're going to see what happens. And so we did, and the professionals then came in, and they looked around, and they were kind of dumbfounded, and they went and got their chairs and wheeled them in. But ever since that day, they never treated the secretaries quite the same way. It was really about shaking things up.
Very good.
Does that make sense?
No, it does. I see what you're saying.
Did
It's
you
a lot
grow-
of it's respect.
Where
It
did
is.
Where did you grow up? Were you in Albany?
In Schenectady.
You're in Schenectady?
Actually, my family, I'm half Irish, I'm half Italian. My family had an Italian restaurant on a street where there were 3 Italian restaurants, boom, 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 one right after another, because the economy was booming then.
Okay.
right? And then, things went very downhill in Schenectady, but that's where I grew up. And
And you worked at the main state ed building
I
on
did.
Washington Avenue?
I worked a lot of different places. I worked at a mental health clinic in Schenectady. I worked at OD Heck in Schenectady, and then I worked on the campus, and then downtown.
So when you said, 37 years at state ed,
It's a long time.
I started, Gordon Ambach was the commissioner.
Oh, yes, okay. Yes.
So do you remember Gordon?
I do, and he
Okay.
was a commissioner to be proud of.
Yes, I always
Yes.
thought so. Did you have opinions about the other education commissioners?
I do have opinions,
Yeah.
and some are better, some
Well.
are worse.
Dish, come on.
Well, this is the way I
Mark's
feel.
the real reporter, you see that. I'm the rabbi, he's the reporter.
I feel this way about education. It's the great equalizer, right? And if you come to the state education department, you ought to come to make sure that everybody can have an equal education. Everybody, no matter where their station in life was, no matter what their socioeconomic status was, education can get them propelled to where they should be.
Right.
And if you come to service there at state ed and you don't have that mindset, you don't belong
Okay,
there.
but
And
what
some,
about the commissioners?
well, let me just say, some are, I'll say this, I don't think politics
Yes.
has any role in education.
Uh-huh.
And that's why we, as a union, always said we should be treated the same way the comptroller's office is, the same way the attorney general's office is.
Right.
We were not a gubernatorial controlled agency,
Right.
but some commissioners acted as though they were, but they weren't. And
No,
so we were very
because they get appointed by a joint session of the legislature.
That's right, not the governor.
That's
So
right.
they don't answer to the governor, they answer to the people.
Let me say a question on a practical level, because I'm a rabbi and I talk to a lot of people, and of course, you're in Albany, Gavel District, a lot of state workers. So, of course, my leading question is how things go in the job. Oy, Rabbi, and I've heard this from many people. There was, like a real Jew. Oy, I had 10 people in my office, whatever, sometimes it's 12, whatever number, and they're just cutting down the workers, and there's 3 people left in the office. I'm doing, 3 people are doing the work of 10, and I don't know how many times people have told me
And
that.
in other words, morale is low.
It's so true, it's so true.
Do you find morale is low?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm talking to my members now because the governor now is very interested in talking to us.
Of course.
I've been in office since August 2012, repeated attempts, nothing. But lately, since I said the Democrats should primary him, the Working Families Party should find their own candidate, and if the Republicans had a person that was running, that was for working people, we'd be talking to them, the governor's calling me now. So the issue is, when I'm talking to my members, the governor's saying he wants to respect them. He does respect them. We're in a different economic climate than we were when we had the $10 billion deficit. But my members are downtrodden. They're beaten back because what you're saying, Rabbi, is absolutely true. They're doing the jobs of 3 or 4 people. And people, for too long, they were making fun of state workers. And, how many state workers does it take to do this or that? My members came here to do work for the public. They're public servants. They care about the community. So that's what I think is very, very important for me to show, the work that they do and why they came here and what they want to improve. They want to improve people's lives. So I get very, very upset when my members are of low morale, and I get very upset when people are making fun of them because they came here to do work for the public.
So how does that get corrected? Because there's more money? I mean, again, like I say, I'm not sitting there in the assembly. They're just cutting out the budget and just trying to balance the budget on the workers' backs.
Well, you know what? The union needs to take blame for this too. We have to do a better job of talking to people about what we do, why our service is important, what will suffer if we're not there. For instance, with the Department of Labor, Congress has not been acting. People don't have extended unemployment benefits, and which means that people that are trying to put food on the table for their families, through no fault of their own because the economy crashed, they can't find jobs. Now, no longer do they have extended unemployment. And now our workers that I represent, that help them, there's no federal funding for that, so now they don't have jobs. And it's just a cycle to the bottom, and it's really bad public policy. It's bad for our society.
Well, can I really want to bring in some history here. Because when Mario Cuomo first took office, he cut the workforce. He said now it would be a mere pittance, the budget that he had, but then, because the budget was so small, but then it was a larger slice of the budget. He had to balance the budget Hugh Carey left him with a mess, and he ticked off every union you can imagine, and then a public employee union, and then the second year and third year he built it back up. To the fourth year, when he had to run for re-election, he started hiring people, and he started expanding the state payroll, so the unions backed him. And then the second time he ran was against Pierre Rinfret. There was nothing that anyone was going to back. There was no one who was going to back Pierre Rinfret, and he's just a footnote in history right now. May he rest in peace. The third time that the governor ran, there was, I don't think PEF endorsed him. I think that's one of the times that PEF endorsed a Republican candidate to send a message. And
That did happen, and this is what I can say. I'm all for an alternative. I'm all for, right now, the Working Families Party, looking at what can we do to get someone that really understands what are working people going through.
Okay, so the governor doesn't win by 15 points, wins by 5 points or 6 points. He still wins, even if you have a Working Families Party candidate.
But if we talk about the long struggle, right? You don't always fight to win that day, right?
Well,
but you fight for a purpose, right? So if we're thinking about what do working people need to do, what does society need to do to speak out for the average person, you start having to put your position in place. And you might not win right away, but it's really about what is the great equalizer for our society? Is it always that we have to say that people feel that everything is about defeat for them and that the rich or people of a certain ideology will always win? No, you have to. That's what I tell my members too, and I just did that today. I went to see my members that offer temporary disability assistance. I said to them, I'm in this for the struggle, but it might not be an easy struggle. So are you with me? Are you with me if it's in the long run?
Right.
So I think we as unionists, we as working people, we have to look at that. We're not going to equalize the tables right away.
And that wasn't my point. My point is, what has Rob Astorino, the presumptive Republican candidate for governor, done in Westchester County that has ticked off public employee unions that you wouldn't even consider?
Well, he's been, PEF, we don't have any experience with him. CSEA is not very happy with him. The teachers union, not very happy with him. And I have been out there publicly and I have said, any gubernatorial candidate that wants to come and talk to us, we will talk to them. I have not gotten any contact from him. So all I can say is we left the door open for anyone that wants to come and talk to us about what it should be in terms of leadership at the state level for working people, and we will talk to anyone that comes to speak to us about that.
Who do you represent? Which kind of workers?
Oh, I'm sorry.
White collar,
Yes.
white collar workers.
We have professional, scientific,
These
and
are all
technical
state
workers.
workers?
All state workers. We do have a couple units that aren't state workers, but the vast majority are. We have doctors, we have lawyers, we have nurses, we have engineers, we have accountants, we have social workers. We have all kinds of workers that are there on the front lines working for people throughout the state.
And you were going to say, I'm sorry, you were going to say you were going to list the types of the categories.
Well, we have so many titles, but professional, scientific, and technical.
Right, technical, that was the one, okay.
Because CSEA represents clerical workers, they represent the laborers. NSCOBA represents the correctional officers.
Right.
We represent all the professional titles that aren't management confidential.
And the nurses? You
Nurses?
have a portion, because there's
Almost 9,000.
Because the New York State Nurses Association
No,
is
it's
a
not,
separate.
but not state employed nurses. So we have nurses at Roswell Cancer Center,
Okay.
which is renowned for the research that they do. We have the 3 SUNY campuses. We have Stony Brook, Downstate, and SUNY Upstate in Syracuse.
Okay, so.
And we also have all the correctional nurses and the nurses that are at the administrative offices.
So do you work well with the State Nurses Association? Or are you
Absolutely.
Are you competing? Are you?
No.
You didn't take any members away from them?
No.
Okay. I just didn't know, but on the front page of your.
Because it's Nurses Week.
That's right.
And we actually
So,
have,
I just want to
thank
show
you. We have an alliance with them,
Yeah.
with CWA, NYSNA, SEIU,
Okay. I
And
didn't practice
PAF.
this ahead of time. Okay.
So it's really a very good thing in terms of our administration that we've built alliances with other unions. Because you know what, if you're fighting amongst yourself, then you're not really able to come together to fight what is the true enemy.
But that's what the Democrats are doing now, is they're fighting amongst themselves.
I'm very concerned about that. I am very concerned. This is what bothers me the most. My members' dues money went to elect certain legislators.
Who determines that? You?
No. We're very democratic. We have local PAC. We call them political action committees. We have local, we have regional, we have statewide, and then we have an executive board. You have to go through all of those steps to get a nomination and an endorsement from this union. So I take that very
Do
seriously.
you call it COPE or no?
COPE is on the federal level.
AFL-CIO.
On the state level,
Right. It's the executive board who
dues
makes
money
the
can be
decision?
used. Executive board member, but they take the executive board, but they take the recommendations from the statewide PAC, who takes the recommendations from the regional PAC, who takes the recommendations from all the local people that come to be on that PAC. So it's a very democratic process. COPE is at the federal level.
And do you mostly, let's say, endorse the incumbent?
No.
Mostly, like 90%. I mean, I know there are exceptions where you don't, but do you?
This is why I can't say that, because our administration has been in power for a year and a half. We don't do anything like it was done before because we don't think that we were going in the right direction.
It's been that long, a year and a half? Already?
Year and a half,
Okay,
but
so-
much different than it was before.
So let me ask you that, because I remember from all the previous presidents, what are you, the 10th or?
I don't know that.
Oh, okay, never mind.
I don't know that off the top of my
I
head.
think you're maybe the 9th or 10th president of PEF, because PEF started in what, 1980?
In the 1970s.
70s, late
No
70s.
fudge room, but in the 70s,
Yeah.
yes.
So what, I have so many questions I'm trying to think of. When you have your convention, and
In September, October every year.
and that's when you make your endorsements.
That's
When you release the endorsement names.
not really. It's
When do you-
really at the August executive board.
Okay. So
They are
then-
the deciding body.
So then you get all the people you endorse to come to your September convention.
Well, we will get some. We will get some.
Okay, where is it going to be this year?
This year it's going to be in Niagara Falls.
Okay, you got to take a trip. Okay.
Yes.
So, is your union in favor or not in favor of casinos? Since you're going to be in Niagara Falls and there's casinos there, I just didn't know.
I will say this. We do understand the position of other unions, but the majority of my members, they work for good social policy. And we have people at Oasis. We have
Right.
people at all different kinds of agencies, right? So we see the harm
Right.
that's done.
So you're not in favor of, you're putting the no in casino?
I can say this. We did not weigh in when the AFL-CIO sent out, what is
Okay.
your position? We did not weigh in because we could not be in favor of what
So you're
splits
staying
apart
neutral?
families.
You're staying neutral?
Well, I can also say this. My individual members speak out.
Uh-huh.
And they also speak out what's bad for their communities. So now all of a sudden everybody's touting we're going to have a casino in our community, right? And it's going to bring in the revenue. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see.
So what do you,
Well, but I just want to
with
say,
the
that's my
the-
view also, people say money.
Yeah.
And I see, like people come to me as a clergyman.
And their family's
and-
falling apart,
yeah,
right?
and so I was saying, oh, well, isn't that great, they're making money.
And they've
then
lost
I-
their savings and
I
their
will see
their
the
marriage is falling
downside
apart.
of it. I says, well, I don't care how much the state's making money. I've seen people's lives being ruined by it.
So let me
So I
ask you.
can't endorse it.
Absolutely.
I've been wanting to ask this, and it's been something with the contract. You're coming up on the end of a 4-year contract.
Thank heaven, because it's
it
terrible.
was, what was it? 3 years of 0 and then 2% in the fourth year.
Yes, 0.002.
The terrible is because of the monetary, or there's other
No,
issues?
there's other issues.
The health benefits.
$17.3 million taken out of education benefits. And since I've come in, we have shown that in that contract article, there's money there. But we're faced with, we don't care if there's money there. You gave it away, not us, but the
Right.
previous administration. They gave it away, so we don't care if there's money there. We're not going to give that education benefit to your members. That is not in the best interest of the state. You want to have an educated workforce. You want to make sure that people are able to provide the services that people need. So this is just kind of a mean, nasty kind of a mindset. And I did have that conversation with the governor, by the way.
Well, what I have is, what I hear from the people in PEF is that National Grid, the cable company, they're all raising rates, but their paycheck is not going up. So there's less income,
Right.
disposable income.
But we see this with working people across the scale, right?
Yeah.
We see this, and when I first heard about the fight for 15, I thought that was unrealistic, $15 for a minimum wage. But now if you think about everything that's happening, $15 is a minimum wage. That should be.
That's a living wage.
That is a living wage.
That's not a minimum. That should be a living wage.
And when you think, this is the other thing that's happened in my union. We're trying to get people to understand what is going on in this country. And so when you do that, you start hitting nerves. So we're talking about the Koch brothers, right? We're talking about what is happening in terms of a long history of trying to change progressive policy. So I have members that are in my union that are very conservative, and they come to me very upset, and they're, Susan, why are you saying this? Why are you calling out names? Why are you talking about that? Because there are a lot of Democrats that are not progressive or not trying to help working people either. And I said, yes, I understand that, and give me their names because I want to talk about them too. So I think what is happening is that working people are not really looking out for working people. That's what I'm trying to change. That's what my administration is trying to change. Is an employer bettering your life? Or is an employer employing you but really exploiting you? Because you could say, right, that the Koch brothers are employing many, many people. But are they helping anyone? Are they improving their lives? Because we had company towns, right? Where you could come and you can get educated. And you could go to church, you could go to service, you could market. But was that good for working people? No, because the employer controlled everything.
Do you get the sense that when you need sponsorships for your convention or an ad journal or whatever you might do, you need things sponsored at the convention to make it work, that the people that people aren't coming because you're not?
Oh, no, we have a lot. No. Since we've come in, I don't really know what was happening before, but I really know that I don't think PEF was on the map. I don't think PEF was very present. We just participated in the May Day parade in New York City, and even though my union is statewide, never really got involved in city politics or city
New York
events.
City, you mean?
Yes, New York City events, and they should, as well as they should in Buffalo or the North Country.
Right.
But I haven't seen that at all.
But
What
you
I've
don't-
seen is that PEF is growing,
Okay.
and more people are interested in us.
So the governor's people, not himself, but the governor's people aren't calling people up and saying, we'd prefer if you didn't support
Not that I
PEF
know.
because
No.
they're not supporting us.
As a matter of fact, the governor's calling me now. So.
No, but that's why I meant, but his minions or the
I
state
have not
party
no, I
or
have not seen
something
that at
else.
all.
You haven't seen anyone, you haven't
The
heard
governor
about
did say
anyone.
one thing to me. He said one thing to me that upset me. He said, Susan, we really did expect you after you came into office to say that the things you said when you were running were only election rhetoric and that you didn't mean it. And I said, Governor, if you know anything about me, you should know this. Everything I say, I mean, and I would never say anything just because I was running for an office.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was a little disturbing to me, but I don't really think that was his original thought. I think that was one of his person's thought. Yeah. But that was disturbing.
But the fact that he internalized it and he still
Well, it was
verbalized
disturbing
it.
because I think it was insight into what do people do. Do people just say things when they're running for office
Yes,
that they
they
don't
do.
mean?
Yes, they do.
And if that's, if that is the norm, then we really need to change that
Well,
because they don't belong in public service.
I don't think it's a norm, especially when it comes with the legislature. You have the opposition where it says, look, I'm trying to change things. This is what I meant when I campaigned, and I'm trying to bring that to Albany, but I'm getting stymied. But I still believe in what I say, but I'm only a freshman or I'm only a sophomore. I still need more time.
But that's still sticking to purpose, right?
And so
but how could you come in and say, I didn't really mean that?
But you know what it is? After a few other elections, that rhetoric in the first election goes away,
Yeah.
and then by the third or fourth election, people forget what you said in the first, and then it's new rhetoric.
I think that's really
And,
disturbing.
well, that's what happens.
Don't
That's
you
why
think that's disturbing, though?
people say I'm evolving on an issue. I'm evolving. I'm learning. That's what the code is for that's I'm surprised the governor didn't say something about that to you, saying, well, couldn't you just say that when I got into office I evolved into this, and instead of saying I changed, just saying now
No, the
I'm
big thing that he wanted to focus on, and it's true,
Yeah.
that when he came into office there was a $10 billion deficit, and now the financial situation is better. So that's good. He recognized that, and I hope it's good for my members, right? Because if the financial situation is better, then their working conditions should be better.
Right. Well, you, or
And so-
more, or you should have more people. There should
More
be,
people, they
What
should
about-
have better benefits.
What about the hiring freeze?
Oh, it's
There's no
terrible.
There's no hiring freeze.
You know, this
You're
is
still-
another thing. When I
Why
said,
would
They're supposed officially there's a hiring freeze, but there's
Yeah.
so many people. I think there was a piece on a local TV station where you saw all these people, tens of thousands of people, were either rehired or they were governor's appointees because or the comptroller's office because they're not under the aegis of the hiring freeze, so they're employed by the comptroller's office. There's other.
although he's not
ways-
flush with staff either, and he's doing a wonderful job,
The
by the
controller.
way, as is, yes, as is the Attorney General. They're fighting very hard, and sometimes they're really under the gun because they are not in the political mainstream, right? And so they're always there for people to attack them. But we're working very well with both the AG and the Comptroller's Office. But in terms of hiring and staffing,
It's all about. the
I
numbers.
know, look, my degree is in business management and economics, right? And so I get it, I understand it, but you can't set a price on the services that a person needs, right? So when you're government for a reason. You're not a private corporation.
Okay, but there's a gavel or there's a bullwhip that the governor has that he could say, you have 54,000 members, how would you feel if you only had 50,000?
Well, I think he
And-
said that at the last contract.
Well, at the last contract.
Yes, he was threatening thousands of layoffs, but at an already skeletal staff. So this is what I'm saying to you. If you're unemployed, if you have a family and you need assistance and you can't get it because there's not enough staff, is your government working for you? If you're trying to get educated but there's not enough staff to help you, or OCFS and you need help, Office of Children and Family
Yeah.
Services, or living with a developmental disability or a mental health issue, or you need hospital service, if you can't get that help, is your government working for you? So do the bean counters really want to have that kind of responsibility weighed on them, that they are the result of why people aren't getting what they need in this society?
So let me ask you this quick question because we have only a few minutes left. What are you looking for in the 2015 contract? And is this going to be a protracted thing where your members will be working without a contract for a time, maybe a year or two?
So legally, you're not allowed to
You can't
strike.
strike.
You're
No,
not
no,
allowed.
no,
But are
we
you
wouldn't
looking
strike.
for something other than a 0% increase?
We will let me say this. As long as I'm president, we'll never take a zero. We never should have taken a zero. My members are in it for the long haul. I've already talked to them about it. We are going to get a good contract. We're going to get the contract they deserve. And I am hopeful that the state is going to come and really want to bargain this time and not try to employ those bullying tactics, because it's not going to work
But
this
you
time.
always follow the CSEA contract negotiations.
Well, this is interesting. So ours is a 4-year contract.
Right.
CSEA is 5.
So you come in first
Absolutely.
this time?
And I like to be there.
Okay. So
I
good
like
luck
to be in
you.
that position.
All right,
Okay.
we're out of time. That was
Great.
very,
Thank you.
very interesting.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and good luck with what you're doing.
Thank
And
you.
really, it's not just working for your workers; you're working for the people of the state of New York. And so, we should wish you many good years in that leadership with good health. Thank you very much.
Thank you for
Thank
coming,
you,
Susan.
Rabbi.
Thank you.
Thank you.